Okay, so in my last video I was covering through synchronous and asynchronous. So that's why you can explain these two things to the interviewer. And let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is of service discovery and service registry. Like interviewer needs to can be asked. Like service registry is nothing but you can say that a virtual table which store addresses of each services. Example, Eureka server is there for maintaining the service registry, and service discovery is that find services dynamically, and both helps in scaling and load balancing. So inside service discovery only we have the service registry. So basically service discovery, you can say that each and every service will be able to register inside the service registry, and from service discovery you can easily locate on which port number this particular microservice is running or how is it. So it is very helpful for the user, or through like suppose API gateways also can also easily relocate that particular service, that on which they on this port number this microservice is running, so we can easily route that traffic to that particular microservice using the service discovery. And what is the status? Suppose if it is up, so status will be shown as up. It is a UI based interface, you can say, and you can just check on the browser also once you are creating the project and implementing the service discovery and service registry. So each and every service will be registered in the service discovery registry, and inside the service discovery you can easily relocate it basically. So that's why both are the important components of the microservices. Okay, now move to next question basically. So dynamic configuration comes from the Git basically. Suppose we have done any changes in config server or in the Git changes, and then Spring Cloud Bus triggers update. Then service use or actuator refresh endpoint is there. Services will use the actuator or refresh endpoint, and then they can take the changes which are being done in the Git file. Or the another way is there is an annotation called refresh scope. At the refresh scope you can just search on it, and through that also you can just take the changes from the Git file if any changes are being done. Not you like basically code will dynamically change the take the changes which are being required, and ensures dynamic config refresh without redeployment. So this is the another question. Now uh, next is like role of API gateway. Basically API gateway is used for the single entry point, you can say. It is a design pattern also, and basically it routes a particular request to each and every service where it is required. And in API gateway only, like you can perform the authentication authorization. These are the some advantages of API gateway. You can do the rate limiting also, like how many requests should go to that particular service through rate limiting. You can balance the load also between the services, if multiple requests or it has reached the threshold that 40 requests are allowed to that particular service, so after 40 it will won't allow to tell the request or send the request, or it can send the request to another instances of that particular service. And logging and monitoring can also be done in the API gateway. So these are the some of the advantages of API gateway, that it can route the API request. In API gateway only we can perform the authentication authorization of the service, and rate limiting can be done. It balances the load, and logging monitoring done, and it is a single point of entry of request. Now next question. So distributed transaction management interview, this is another important question. Not in detail much I will be covering this question. Basically there are multiple ways to manage the transaction. You, if you have heard about at the transactional annotation, inside that we are having the isolation propagation levels. Then you need to manage the transaction across services. There are multiple services, and you need to ensure that if any of the service goes down, so you should able to roll back their data, or in some scenario you want to save the data, so that also possible using at the transactional isolation propagation level. But sometimes there are multiple scenarios which I will be telling later. So there we uses the two-phase commit is there. Coordination phase based hota hai, and phase one, like it is prepare phase. Coordinator will be there. It is ask the services if they are ready to commit. So in that scenario, like services will be committing in the virtually like in the cache, you can say. And phase two, it is a commit or rollback phase. If the service says yes to the coordinator, then they are ready to commit. Then coordinator will commit all the data. So these this is the two-phase commit, and it is important again interview question. It is being most asked. Not I have covered in this detail, but just read about this. Then you have the Saga pattern for managing the transaction. Also, you have one way that, or choreography or orchestration is a way you can manage that or implement the Saga pattern. These are the two ways which I have written there. And in Saga pattern is there, each transactions listens to another transactions and ensures eventual consistency. It is a detailed topic. I have covered like little bit about it, but you can read on the net more about it. Important interview question. So last question is there, that suppose it was a scenario based question. It was being asked in one of the product based interview, that three services are there: personal data service, payment service, and address service. And payment and address service will only commit the data if personal data service is able to commit the data. If any of personal data service is not able to commit the data, that in that scenario payment and address should also be rolled back the data, should not be saving the data DB basically. So you can use the one way is that you can use the Saga pattern, and orchestrator is a way to implement the Saga pattern, and it checks the personal data server. Orchestrator is a central container. It will check the personal data server, and if a success like personal data service is able to commit the data in the database successfully, then it will trigger the payment and address services. And if any of like personal data services having the failure, it is not able to commit the data successfully in the DB, then it will cancel or compose it, or it will not trigger the payment and address service to save the data. So this ensures the data consistency between the services. Like if any of the services is failing down, so none of the service data is going to be saved in the DB. So this helps ensure the data consistency. So this is the another important question. So I have covered top 10 questions. It is not top 10, it is having multiple questions in the microservices interview perspective, which I will be covering in later point out. But as of now, like I have covered top 10. So please let me know if you have any feedback, any suggestions for this series or for this video. And please like and share and subscribe my channel. I will be coming back with another interview question. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thanks.